Welcome to this Startup Grind workshop in partnership with Startup Grind Budapest and for the Startup Universe, Startup Europe Universe. And today I'm pleased to have Jérôme Bloch with me.
Pleasure.
And what we will do is we will have a workshop on marketing and also commercialization your products. It should be interactive, so please shoot your questions in the chat. We will pick them up during the discussion. And now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Jérôme and hand over to him. Please, Jérôme.
So, hello, I'm Jérôme Bloch. What I did, I'm originally a golf professional. I've done that 10 years of my life, and in 2000, 22 years ago, I created my own communication agency. I'm a very bad preacher, so I think the best way to do this, I have a small presentation for 15 minutes today, but what I'm really looking forward to is getting questions from you guys, and then I'll be happy to answer them. So maybe, again, for the intro, 360 Cross Media is my agency. You can check it out on 360crossmedia.com. We are a B2B company, very successful here in Luxembourg and a little bit abroad, but we also do have experience in selling mainstream products, and I'll try to share this with you. I do have a message for you today. I know everybody's short on time, so if you want the bottom line of my experience after 22 years of doing this business and 10 years being a golf professional before, I think, and I'll go back through it, the first rule is you need to adopt the right culture. I'll talk about Google, I'll talk about marketing, software, the classical thing that you hear all the time. From my experience, especially when I interact with entrepreneurs, what makes a difference is the culture. I'll go back on it. The second thing is I think you need to work extremely hard to learn the rules. There are rules. It's very complicated. It evolves all the time. And if you don't do your homework, I don't think you can be competitive nowadays. I'll explain why. And the last big point is you need to break the rules. Because as you know, if it was easy, everybody would be a millionaire already. And obviously, it's not the case. So we need to look, and I cannot wait to hear your question, to look at what makes people successful and which rule did they follow and which rule did they break. So let's go back to the culture. And I want to show you here, for example, in my company, we have this book that I wrote. It's just the whole culture of my company. And when I see startups, I see them pitch. I'm investing in a few of them. There's a lot of bullshit. And I don't know if Steve told you, but I wrote a book called No Bullshit. So yeah, you can do the business plan of your dreams. You can try to get marketing power, a good product, a good website, blah, blah, blah. If the culture is not right, I know it will fail. And again, I've pitched as an entrepreneur. I've pitched as an investor. I've been to Web Summit many times. I've been to Vivatech many times. Believe me, what makes the difference is the entrepreneur, not the theory behind it. So I encourage you to make your culture tangible, because this will allow you to attract the right colleagues, to motivate the right colleagues, and to grow your company. Second part is learning the rules. So I'm pretty sure you want to ask me, is it Google? Is it social networks? Is it mainstream? Is it television? Is it guerrilla marketing? And I think really there's not one solution. Again, if there was one, people would know it by now and everybody would be highly successful, which is not the case. So I think you need to study all this. Google is changing all the time. Right now, personally, I'm very interested with LinkedIn. I don't mean it's so much better, but at least I can target by person. I can say, I want to pay to get my message in front of a CEO or a marketing manager or an IT guy. And I've used Google a zillion times. I have to say results have been very inconsistent. If I was selling really some easy stuff like low-cost shoes, it works. if you want to sell some sophisticated product, it's very, very hard to justify the cost of acquisition of a client. So it makes a business plan almost impossible to scale. You might ask about HubSpot, you might ask about other software. Again, I think you should study them all and do your own experience. Start small, see how it works, and based on that, you can learn properly. Apart from the mainstream things like Google, LinkedIn, social networks, I'm a big fan of newsletters, because newsletters allows you first to build on a database. If you get the culture of getting emails all the time in the GDPR time, of course, it's very positive for your business. It's a good culture. And as you know, I don't care if you use Campaign Monitor or another system. It can be MailChimp. It doesn't really matter. There are many, many, many of them right now. Some of them you pay, some of them are free. Personally, I like to pay to get better data, better metrics. In the end, it's really good because it allows you to see exactly who is watching your newsletter. And I think this allows you to make some extremely accurate remarketing directly on people who just looked at your thing. I know HubSpot allows this in an automated way. There are other solutions on the market. The only issue is they cost a bone. And if you fail with that, you're going to spend 25,000 euro every year on the software, which is only bringing you a little proportion of this. So newsletters are very important, of course. Events is a big question. I'm a huge fan of Red Bull. And as you know, Red Bull has been successful in mainstream, not by paying ads. I think they only started paying ads 20 years after the creation. I got lucky to interview Dietrich Mateschitz, the founder. And as you know, the whole strategy was first based on the Flugtag, where people were invited to fly as far as they could. And then he went very far, up to being a world champion of Formula One. So it's a very good example of a mainstream marketing built on events and sponsoring rather than advertisement. And I think you should still be inspired by that if you're selling a product with a high emotional weight, power, you could say. What else do we have? Print. I mean, I'm a good example. Steve has known me for many, many years. And in my strategy, I'm B2B, but still I created my own magazines. So if you look at this beautiful magazine, which of course would cost a lot of money to pay an ad in, well, my ad is here. And not only do I get it for free, I make money on this magazine. So this is another strategy. It was feasible in Luxembourg because it's such a tiny market, but I managed to create several business magazines which are making my company money while promoting my own brands in an extremely powerful way. Now we just launched another one, which is fantastic. It's a digital brand only called luxembourgofficial.com. Don't try to buy it nowadays. It's too late. I bought this in 2001. And it's a kind of asset which, again, I could use to sell a lot of things. So be creative and don't hesitate to look at the whole spectrum between events, newsletter, etc. My favorite to conclude with is thought leadership. You know, it's very easy to publish content on social media and everywhere saying, oh, me, that's what I do, I'm so great. I don't think that works very well. People are only interested about them. So I would recommend to you that you try to do some thought leadership, which means you make people speak about your product, which is, of course, the strategy used by influencers, but you don't necessarily need influencers for that. You can also orchestrate a content strategy based on this kind of thought leadership. So in a nutshell, that's what I have to tell you about the rules. And then finally, to conclude, breaking the rules. It's for me, I think my specialty, that's what worked for me. Why? I'm sure you guys read some books like Red Ocean, Blue Ocean, and many, many other books which tell the same thing. As long as you are doing the same things as others, you are talking about very tiny profit margins and very high competition. As soon as you break the rule, you're talking about monopoles and high profit margin. And I think this is something extremely critical if you want to survive. I'm very proud that my company is now 22 years old. It's a very small club. And so I can only recommend you to think like this. And my absolute favorite book is called 0 to 1. I do not like the author, which you may know is an early investor in Facebook. He was the founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel, a German guy. zillionaire. I don't like the guy. Every time I see an interview, he's a bad vibration. He loves Trump. I'm not a fan of the guy, but I have to say, he's so smart, and his book 0 to 1 is an absolute must read for all of you watching this. So this is, in a nutshell, what I wanted to tell you. And to conclude, I would like to show you something, which is what I show to all my clients, and it applies perfectly for what you guys are trying to achieve. This is, again, a system, which is what we help companies do. Again, super simple, no bullshit. Every company, doesn't matter which category, if you sell shoes, makeup, I don't care, you have unstructured content that you cannot really use. Maybe it's text, maybe it's photos, publication, maybe questionnaire you send to one of your experts, maybe some videos, PowerPoints, all kinds of format. Very, very difficult to use in a very consistent way. So my advice to you is you need to set your standards. Maybe you are fully into Instagram, so of course the photos will have to be in a special format. Set your strategy and define your structured content. Once you have them ready, which means all the text have the same size, all the videos, all the pictures are ready to use immediately, deploy your distribution network on your website, on other websites, on social networks, etc., etc. You need to anticipate that. Do it one time for the whole year. Of course, you learn this at school, and in every kind of video, you need targets. So it can be clients, it can be just general public, just to grow your brand. It can be internal, and set some clear KPIs, key performance indicators. So never more than 6. Otherwise, they are no longer key performance indicators. And of course, you know it, you learned it at school or in seminars. Focus on what you do well, and the rest outsource it. So you're not a writer, you might outsource to an expert. Maybe you're bad at doing websites. Maybe you find in Upwork some guys who will do it for a low amount of money better than you. And you might want to train your team or your clients to get better at knowing what you guys do. So again, no rocket science. I'm going to stop the sharing here. But this is at works, and keep in mind what I said at the beginning. Rule number 1 is culture. If you don't have the right culture, I don't care which software you use, you're going to fail. So work on the culture. Watch videos from Elon Musk and any successful entrepreneur. They will all tell you it starts with very, very, very hard work. In my company, we copy the culture on very high-end restaurants. I love to see how a cook needs a guy for the meat, the vegetable, the sauce, and all of this is coming together in a fantastic plate. So this is how I put my culture into music, into this book that I make my colleagues read. Once you have that, learn the rules, study all the latest trends. What was good 6 months ago might be completely useless today. So invest the time. It takes a lot of time. You're not going to do this during the day. You're going to do it at night or during the weekend. But if you don't do that, you will not be able to have a competitive edge. And finally, break the rules, because this is how you can develop monopoles or protect your margins. Because I've done the mistake 22 years ago. After a few months, I was very busy, but I was not profitable. And I tell you guys, this is not a good recipe for sustainability. So I'm done with my presentation. Please let me know if you have any question, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Jérôme. Just a reminder, put your question in the chat, and then we will take them on the Q&A. And I see already some coming. One is, if I'm very early stage, and how much effort should I put into the marketing part, and what should I start with?
Yeah, so it's of course a very good question, and it addresses some another big topic, which is the entrepreneurship culture of 2022. Keep in mind, when I started, Steve, it was 22 years ago. You still had to find an office space. It was not co-working. You needed to sign a contract for 6 months, blah, blah, blah. Investors were not something affordable or accessible to anybody except people maybe in the Silicon Valley. And of course, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs, especially at Loft, which is 500 meters from here in Luxembourg. And I know that there's a big risk of focus at the beginning first on entrepreneur money or investors' money, sorry. Just, this idea that I have this great idea and I would like to raise 2 million euros now, and in exchange of 15% of a share of my company. You make the math. It means you value your idea at 12 million euro. And I know that it happens. I follow the trend in Luxembourg. I follow the trend in Paris, where it's a big market, in Brussels. So this is a huge shift which came the last 6 or 7 years, thanks to BPI France, Lux Innovation, and a lot of things like this. So this is just to put perspective. Are you willing to grow your business in what I call a traditional way, where you start with your sweat money and you do a website and a product and you sell it immediately as much as you can? Or are you willing to become a billionaire very fast and you're looking at investors? So this is two perspectives, and you need to be very clear about that. Coming back to your question, if you do it my way, which is the old way, I still own 100% of my company after 22 years, and I tell you, it's a fantastic feeling every morning when I come to work. So if you do it this way, I think the obsession should be sales, and by any means. My first sales were purely affective. People tell me 22 years after, when I first saw you, Jerome, I did not understand at all what you were trying to sell me, but I liked you and I bought it. So I don't care if you sell shoes, a tie, or whatever. Put some passion, meet people, and beg them to buy your product. Because if you do that, you will get the good habit of doing some invoices. And this is really, I believe, the DNA of any company. And I know it sounds crazy that this has been lost. Many people think you don't need to be profitable to make a good business. Well, for 90% of you guys watching, or 99%, I think selling should be an obsession. Back to Steve's question, if you are not having investors on board yet, and even if you do have them, spending too much marketing money at this stage, I believe, could be a big mistake, because maybe, and it's very likely, your product is not mature. So I think you need a first stage, which you call product development. And the most effective way and cheapest way to do it is to go and sell. Because I guarantee people will tell you if your product is not bad, is not good. And that means you're going to get free feedback, free consulting. And this will allow you in a matter of weeks to quickly improve your product. And when you start selling this product like crazy at a small scale, then is the time to start investing in Google, in LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all those things to scale this profit. But I don't believe that you go from zero to selling like crazy like that just because you lacked marketing money. A good product will sell anywhere at any time. Another question, any significant difference between B2B and B2C methodology? Short answer is yes, massive. Long answer is not so much if you look into detail. Remember what I told you? If you're taking it on what you use, for example, LinkedIn for B2C might be a long way around, and it depends on what you guys are selling. But selling online B2B is extremely difficult. So I think it's a very different technique. B2C, go social network, hire a very beautiful girlfriend or a guy which has some charisma, yellow glasses. You know how it works. You do this better than me. You're half my age. So yes, short answer is it's completely different. Long answer, not at all, because you need to get the right culture. You need to learn the rules, whatever they are, if they're B2C rules or B2B rules, and you need to break the rules, I believe.
And then another question which came up is, in the early stage of a company, you have a product, even you may have an MVP, most valuable product, and you are evolving with it. Does the marketing around the different stages of your product also evolve? Or should you stick to the message and to the channels so that when you have the final product, your story is told in a consistent way?
Again, it's not so complicated for that. I think the biggest issue, especially I'm talking now to the people who are looking for investors, who are dreaming that finally your business plan will be accepted by a angel investor or VC. I don't know. I've seen so many of these. I received one yesterday for some funny app. Which was asking for like 20 million euro. It's an idea. They don't even have a minimum viable product. Huh? You see some insane things. A team of 4 people, obviously, who didn't put too much work, and they think that their idea is already worth 100 million euros. So there are some things which are a bit crazy. And I think for this kind of company, the difficulty is you're going to press the button once, and you're going to success fast or you're going to fail fast. And I tell you one thing, it's a very, very difficult moment when you have your finger above the button, especially if you put your own money in it. Because I guarantee you, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn will burn your cash faster than you can imagine. And if you were fooling yourself, you're going to be bankrupt faster than you imagine. So I think for people who are working with investors, it's really, you have to be very careful in the product phase that you are not fooling yourself. I'm not a huge fan of market surveys, because Red Bull, all the market surveys said the product would fail. It became a sensation. But I do believe in the feedback of clients and prospects and in common sense. So I think if you have investors with €1 million, you will know when it's time to scale, because you will feel the traction. You will see that something is happening, that people are talking about it, even when you don't do marketing. And there's going to be a time where you feel it's getting so big, it's time to press the button and accelerate this growth. This moment happens once a century. I see so many people, we are not close to that. And if you look carefully at the people who made millions in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, look at them closely. There are brilliant people. I'm not scared to see people and realize they're more intelligent than me or they have this charisma. So it's very important that you know where you are and that I'm also a strong believer in dreaming. When I started my company, I had those dreams. I can tell you the business plan was completely wrong, but it doesn't matter. I change and I stayed in the game. And 22 years after, I can tell you it's a highly profitable business. And on top of it, I'm having so much fun coming to work every day. So I don't know if the answer is clear enough. What I say is, you were asking, shall I change my channels? I think it's more a matter of how do I scale my channels? If you're getting good results on Facebook at the beginning and you want to scale, well, instead of investing €200 per day, you might do €2,000 per day. Maybe one day you'll do €20,000 per day. That's how you scale a proven method.
And there's another question which came in, which is about, okay, I'm an early stage company and I'm addressing now a market. And afterwards, after trial and error, I find out, oh, maybe that's not the correct market. Do I have to change and adapt also my strategy, my commercialization strategy on that side if I change the market or adapt the market?
Yes, in general, today you need to adapt all the time. It's again, I can only share what I know best, which is my own company. Let's take it quickly. I started it in 2000. I used to be a golf professional from 1990 until 1999, but every winter as a golf pro, you've got a lot of time because it's too cold to play golf. So I was doing business plan like everybody. And when I was 27 years old, I said, look, I'm going to do it now. And by my 30th birthday, if I'm not profitable, I'll go back to playing and teaching golf. So I started it. I didn't know what it would be. And it turned out to be the first years an event company. It was not my plan, but that's what I was doing, events. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're now in 2005. And I'm frustrated because events is a bad business. I'm sorry for all the young people watching. I know it's emotions, it's good, there's light, there's emotion. It's very difficult to make it a recurring business. And as you will find out very quickly, one of the main key for success is recurring clients. You sign them once, like your phone company. I signed one time for this contract, and they get my money every month for the last 20 years. So I was frustrated with events because I saw after 5 years, I made money. I was exhausted. It was new all the time. And I could see it was leading to exhaustion and not to a successful business. So 2005, I created my first magazine. Big change, new strategy, new targets, new everything. Fast forward 2008, my company was publishing 40 magazines for companies. So from one magazine, people say, oh, it's great. Can you do it for me? Boof, I developed a lot of business. 2008, big crisis, subprime, disaster. We're all going to die. Well, I invested a lot of time during this period where there was almost no work in 2008, 2009, especially, into my digitalization, and I launched My Official Story. My Official Story, 3 years after, was generating 40% of my company. Fast track down the line, 2016, I invented the 360 box, which I have right here. You could look it up online, 360-box.com. And now when COVID came, I don't know why I invented this box, but when COVID came in 2020, the 360 box generated a growth of 20% of the company, which also includes all the business we had lost. So basically a compensation of 50%. And we grew again 20% in 2021. And this year we grew again. So you see the big picture. Events, and then they become events and publishing. And then a lot of publishing, less events. And then digital brand. And then the video pop. So it's the same company, but in 22 years, every 5 years, you could say, it changed completely. And I believe this is a recipe for success nowadays. So things are changing so fast. Competition is so fierce. Talent now is everywhere. 20 years ago, if you were not born in Paris or Brussels or London, you were having 50% less chances than before. Right now, nobody cares. If you're a brilliant guy in Budapest or a brilliant guy in Kiev, and a small hello to all our friends from Ukraine. I really wish you the best as fast as possible. If you have talent in Kiev, you will be successful. Do your hard work. Go to Web Summit, of course. I'm sure there's going to be some association bringing you there to showcase your talent. And if you did work like crazy, I compare it to tennis. Nothing or nobody could prevent Novak Djokovic from becoming the first in the world because he was so good. It's the same in tech and in business. If you are really, really passionate, and if you really, really work 20 hours a day during several weeks in a row, and you really come up with something great, nothing will prevent you from succeeding.
And then there's another question is, okay, you are presenting well, you are selling well, you know how to sell or learned it. And what if you have a founder who is a brilliant mind, but not a good salesperson?
I see what you're talking about.
What would you recommend them? How should they approach it? I mean, you told about the 360 system, you told about expert outsourcing and so on. What would you suggest to them? How should they go for it if it's a very early young company?
I answered it before. It's first of all the right culture. I mean, if you have a culture and communication is not a major part of it, it's not a culture. You're never going to succeed internally, and you're never going to succeed externally. So just forget it. I compare this with a good friend of mine. Unfortunately, he's dead by now. I've known him since I was really 5 years old. He was an artist. He was one of the best artists that I know, and I know a lot of gallerists found him brilliant. And I'm fortunate to have a few of his paintings because, again, he was a great friend of my father and a great friend of mine. Fantastic guy. But he had a problem. He was terrible. And I mean, the worst in communication. I introduced him to gallerists, and he basically said to their face, you guys are all assholes. What do you think happened? The gallerists never were interested to do business with him. And long story short, he died at 83 years old, broke. You could buy his painting for a ridiculous sum when it's obvious. He had the talent. The gallerist told me, this is fantastic, but the guy is so bad. I don't want to represent him. And it really impacted my my life. In my bedroom, I have a beautiful painting that he did for me, which is called Icarus, the fly and then don't fall. And I think for entrepreneurs, it's the same. Don't fool yourself, guys. Being successful is not just the right product, just like being successful was not just the right paintings. You need a good product. You need a good CEO. You need a good team at every level. You need a good culture. You need to work very hard. This is it. And again, do your homework, study what successful people did, and I can guarantee you they did everything. I never heard of a lucky guy, never. Okay, if you're the daughter of Kim Kardashian, you might have 1 million followers just when you create your Instagram. It doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Even the Kardashian, I'm not a big fan, but I know these women are fantastic. The way they launch their brand, you've seen one of the sister is now a billionaire in makeup product. It's not rocket science. You just need to do your homework, do your research, look at what professional and successful people do, and it always comes down to the same stuff. Very hardworking, very strong culture, learning all the ways. Maybe they learn it or they buy the competence, and some of them break some rules. I would say the breaking the rule is more an outsider rule. I'm a French guy in Luxembourg. My only chance was to break some rules if I wanted to succeed in a foreign country.
And then another question is, okay, you have a product, you are good at explaining it, but how do you reach your market when you cannot get to the market you like because you have no entrance and so on? How would to go, because it's the market is there, but you cannot, you don't. Can I reach it?
I'm not really buying into that. If you say, "Oh, the market is there, but I cannot touch it," I don't agree. It's a matter of scale. If you tell me, "Okay, I'm selling this new watch, and it's a solar watch, made of wood, whatever," and my market is a high-end in Paris, and I've tried Paris and it doesn't work. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't buy into this because nothing prevented you from taking a train, going to Neuilly, which is the west of Paris where all the money is, finding an event or meeting people. It can be in a school, it can be at a market. I don't care. If there's a market, you can find it. Maybe you're only going to sell a couple of watches because you only invest 2 days of your time. But show me that there is a market that you are ready to address, even if it's in a very symbolic way. But if you sold zero, I just don't believe you.
Thank you. And then another question which came in is, okay, I go to the market, I have a team, I have a culture, and I rely on my salespersons. Okay? But let's say, so they F up a little bit. And how can I redress it? Is there a way to redress it? Because they have been in contact with my clients.
Here I need to be careful to what I say, but I use images. Take football. We have a fantastic team, and every time the guy, how do you say, l'attaquant, the forward,
the attacker,
the number 10 or something like this. Every time he gets the ball, he fucks up. Well, maybe the first thing is you change the number 10. I don't know, or you train him. But training normally doesn't work in this context. So again, I don't want to be too brutal, but it's not rocket science. Something went very wrong. Either the product is not good enough, and data should show that. If you sent so many offers and you created many leads, and every time refuse to close the deal with you, there's something wrong. So the product might be the issue. Second metrics I would look at is how many leads did you get? Did you get leads, or you get no leads, and obviously maybe there's no market, or maybe the sales guy is not a good sales guy for that. So that's the second possibility. And then if you did have leads and they were not closed and the product seems to be good, maybe I'll check the quality of leads. I've seen bullshit salespeople who were not selling the product, but they were selling the order form. I don't know if you see what I mean, but obviously if you looked at the client, he was clearly not interested. And still the guy was, okay, I get it. So can I send you an offer? And people say, yeah, why not? But they were never interested in the product. So again, I think you, in this case, you're in a life and death situation. So it's time to really stop and assess very clearly, what about the product? What about the strategy? What about the people implementing the strategy? And I guarantee if you solve zero, you'll find some issues in one of those three. Otherwise, you might be the one that we need to change, because a good product with a good strategy and a good team must sell.
Thank you very much. And then there is another question which came in is, okay, you touch a little bit upon it, that, okay, selling the order form or selling the product. And what if I can sell the product? I'm very, imagine you're a very early stage company. I have my product, I get to it. And in order to commercialize it, okay, I need to get a contract to sell it.
Yeah, but again, if you're in B2C, you know, it can be just a mailing. I just saw an example for Valentine's Day. Maybe you know this startup, or now it's no longer a startup, which is at the office, and she was selling a menu, which was a new product that she never did before, because normally she's a website for good addresses. Well, she sent a newsletter to the contact she had. That's the virtue of having a good database, and my wife bought it. So yeah, she's got a client. So is she going to grow this business? There's only one Valentine per year, but maybe she's going to do it several times during the year. You know, again, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science normally, the way you go to your market. I just hear in startups a lot of bullshit most of the time, because there is this schizophrenia between the reality of the situation and the virtual reality which is created for investors. And I tell you one thing, when you're an investor, you hate to measure the gap between the reality and this virtual reality. And I also believe that it's very healthy for everybody. At the beginning, it's fine to fantasize a bit. I did it as a golf professional, because if I had not done it, I would have never done the creation of the company and renounced my professional golfer's career. But after a short while, try to land, try to look at reality, measure your metrics, your KPIs, work by metrics to be very in close contact with reality, so that even if you fail, failing is not an issue. I think the biggest disaster is refusing to fail and basically getting during years on a bad business. So don't be afraid to fail. And then you fail, you meet with your team, you say, guys, this is not working. Change the plan, change the people if you need, try again. And I failed many, many times through my 22 years. And as you can see, I'm still here. Company is doing great. So failure was never a bad news for my company. It was just a way to stop unnecessary costs.
And then if now there's one of the last question is, okay, we sold it once, and okay, we want to have a recurring business. So how much effort shall we put in order to secure that it's recurring? If we don't have, let's just say, a utility business, if we sell something and it's something which we like to have recurring, but we need to remind the clients, the customers eventually.
Yeah, I mean, this really takes you back to the origin of your company. And maybe what people can learn from this video is how important it is to have a recurring business. And yeah, if you are selling a watch at 600 euro, I'm not sure it's going to be easy to make it a recurring business, because people might not want the same watch in 6 colors. So maybe doing this watch is not the best idea for you guys. Maybe selling wine is a better idea, because when I drink the bottle, I want to order more. And if I trust you guys, you might ship my wine every month. I don't know. It really takes you back to the origin and to this vertigo. I refer to this a lot with my team, you know, the vertigo after your studies. You know, am I going to do this? Am I going to take am I going to become an employee in a company or do my startup? It's vertiginous when you think about it. It's going to design the next 40 years of your life. Well, it's the same when you design, okay, what am I going to spend the rest of my life on? I decided to go in creating my company around communication. Well, it was a huge thing. And of course, sometimes I was complaining, thinking, shit, I should have sold easy product because there's more money to do faster. So you really need to think early about that. But I can give you an example in my business. When you take those articles, so for example, people buy me this article for great photo, great text, pop, 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 pop. For many years, I sold it one by one. I said, hey, would you like to be in my magazine? They said, yes. We did the transaction. They paid me. And a year after, I would go back to them and say, hey, would you like to be in my magazine? Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I said no. After a while, I changed my order form. And now all my order forms by design are automatically renewable. And I say to client, I say, look, you get a fantastic price because it's automatically recurable, but you can cancel it every year, 2 months before the end. And if you want it for 1 year, no problem. It's just 15% more expensive. And people, no. We are happy to work with you on the long term. Well, the truth is, comes 2020 and COVID, if I had not had that, I would have lost 30% of my turnover. But because I had those contracts and I sent it back to them and they were not surprised because the contract was valid. And they said, look, I hope you'll be nice with us this year because we know you're going to distribute less. And I said, you're right. I'm going to shift a little bit this and that. And then I said, look, I have a video studio. I will offer you free of charge a video worth 1,500 euro. And they were all happy, which led to a growth in 2020 and 2021 and now in 2022. So again, you need to be flexible. You need to be... I would say smart, and you might want to use a rule from one of my best books, which was called The Illusion of Simplicity. Rule number 1 of this book says, nobody cares about you guys. Never forget that. They only care about themselves. So if you approach your product and everything else from the client's perspective, you're going to save a lot of time, and you're going to make money much, much faster. By the way, sorry, I hate long pitch. Learn to pitch in 60 seconds. There's nothing worse for an investor to hear a pitch during 12 minutes.
Thank you very much. And just to wrap up, the last question I'm taking now is, you touch upon the upselling part. Mm-hmm. And what if really during the lifetime of the company, we create really different products which may not be linked between them? Should we take a different strategy, commercialization strategy for each product?
Of course.
And how shall we go about it? Shall we really see it as a Chinese wall between them, or?
It depends on your team. It depends how many people you are. In my company, I consider myself a butcher. You know, I love butchers. I love to eat meat. I love barbecue. I love the fact that I get so much shit nowadays that meat is bad. Well, my butcher in my village is a fantastic guy. I love him. He finds me amazing meat that he knows. He knew the name of the cow. So I consider myself as a butcher. I never wanted to scale to crazy extremes. And so we remain with a small team. Of course, we have a lot of independent around, which means we are able to address the various strategies within the same guys. But of course, we're not marketing the same magazine like ND and a 360 box like there. So yes, you need to address specific strategies for each product, but you don't need a Chinese wall. It's the same company. The big question is, and we are getting the question with the 360 box now, how can you scale one without scaling the others? And then you need to just carve it out. So you might open the capital for other investors, carve it out, and then get a dedicated team which will do things you don't need to do for other business.
Okay, thank you very much, Jérôme.
Pleasure.
For this workshop, for sharing your experiences. Is there something which, in the end, as a word of wisdom, you would like to share with the audience?
Work hard. I think this is what saved me all the time. You know, take the clocks back. I'm French in Luxembourg. I think I'm the only French guy with a communication agency, at least which survives. The company is doing fantastically well. In English, you have a fantastic word which is outworking, which I cannot translate in French. It doesn't exist. And as a golf professional, I knew that talent was never a factor. I didn't study so deep before launching my company. I was passionate about it. I had some ideas, but I believed in my ability to outwork everybody. And when I tell you days of 20 hours of work, it's not just words. When I launched the magazine Andy in Paris in 2005, I was arriving in the office at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was leaving at midnight every day. That's how difficult it was. And at midnight, what I was doing, I went jogging because I was so upset and frustrated and nervous. And I did this for 6 months nonstop. When my girlfriend saw me come back to Luxembourg every Friday, I looked like a zombie. Why did I do that? Because my dream was to have my own magazine. I knew it was the right thing at the time. I realized very quickly the market was much, much harder than I thought. Nobody wanted to work with me. Nobody needed a new magazine. In the end, if you want the way we did it through an event. I invited some CEOs in a fancy restaurant that I got for free. That's the magic of precarity. And on that night, I told them, guys, you always say when you see me, you want to work with me, but you send me to your agency, and your agency never takes my call, so I'm fucked. And on that night, I signed 75,000 euro of turnover because they accepted to sign the order form without going through the agency. That's what I was made of, and that's why today I'm a successful entrepreneur. I could work much harder than my competitors. And I'm a huge fan of precarity. Even right now, when the company is doing so well, I like to put myself in a tough spot because that's where I'm best. And I often relate to, fat companies and lean companies. I want to imagine 360 as a lean company. You can see what's on the wall, talk about the culture. You can see here, no talent wasted. That's what you get when you enter my company. And that's it. That's my word of wisdom. Don't complain, don't whine. If you want to quit, quit. Nobody cares. But if you're in the game and you want to win, just work day and night. Eat healthy, do some sport because that's going to regenerate your energy. And don't stop until you're proud.